GMAT all day.
Because sequences oftentimes follow predictable patterns, the GMAT test writers can ask you to find almost any term in the sequence. And so they can give you a sequence that goes on infinitely, and then they can ask you to find the 10,000th term in that sequence, or they can ask you to sum the 153rd term through the 307th term in the sequence, or multiply out hundreds of terms within a sequence, which normally you obviously would not be able to do within 3 minutes. But if you can find the pattern, then often that is the key to simplifying whatever the question is asking you to do. And so for questions like the ones we have been doing before this, where the sequence is, I believe it was every term in the sequence is the term before plus 3. Well, in those cases, the pattern is obvious. You can just sort of visualize it by looking at the formula they give you. But other times, the pattern will not necessarily be so obvious. So in those cases, sequence questions become sort of a two-step operation. You got to translate your sequence accurately. You got to translate the formula accurately. And then after that, you have to find the pattern. And so that is the reason why usually with sequence questions, you'll see me before I look at the answer choices, or on data sufficiency before I look at the statements. I will write out the first few terms of the sequence, because even though I might not need to generate those terms, it helps me find patterns. It gives me an idea what this sequence looks like. So this question here says the nth term of a sequence is defined by x sub n is equal to 1 minus 1 over 1 plus n for all positive integer values of n. What is the product of the first 100 terms of the sequence? And so I don't necessarily know where this question is going. I know that I can't multiply out 100 terms. And so instead of just staring at the page, waiting for the algebraic solution to appear to me, I'm just going to write out. And because they're asking for the product of the first 100 terms, instead of just writing out the first few terms in the sequence, what I might do is write out the first few terms, then the last few terms. So the first 3 terms, and then maybe the second to last term and the last term. And this should be a good representative sample for finding patterns. So let's translate. So when we have these pattern recognition type questions for sequences, these are sort of two-step processes. You need to translate the formula accurately, and then we got to find our pattern. And so this is saying, so let's translate it. Any term in our sequence is equal to 1 minus 1 over 1 plus that number's place within the sequence. So the first term is going to be equal to 1 minus 1 over 1 plus 1. The second term should be equal to 1 minus 1 over 1 plus 2. Third term should be 1 minus 1 over 1 plus 3. Dot, 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 dot. And the 99th term should be 1 minus 1 over 1 plus 99. And the last term, 1 minus 1 over 1 plus 100. And I will literally do this. Well, I'll fully write it out first before simplifying it, because I don't necessarily know where my pattern. First, I need to find out if there is a pattern. Then if there is a pattern, I don't necessarily know where it's going to emerge. And so if I simplify things too much off the bat, I might miss the pattern. And so I can already sort of see it emerging here. So let's go one step further now and simplify. So this is going to be 1 minus 1 half. Second term is 1 minus 1 third. Third term is going to be 1 minus 1 fourth. Second to last term should be 1 minus 1 over 100. And then our last term is 1 minus 1 over 101. So then if we do our final simplification, actually find each term, our first term is just 1 half. Our second term is 1 minus 1 third should be 2 thirds. 1 minus 1 fourth should be 3 fourths. You can see the pattern emerging here as well. So our second to last term should be 100 over 100 minus 1 over 100. So that's just 99 over 100. Which makes our final term equal to 100 over 101. So now that I found this pattern, and I use it to solve for this product without actually having to multiply out 100 terms. And I think I can, because it looks like every denominator is going to cancel out with the numerator to the right of it. This 4 should cancel out. This 99 will cancel out with the denominator to the left of it. Then this 100 should cancel out. And so the only things to survive, the only things that don't cancel out, are our very first numerator, our very last denominator. And so this product should just be equal to 1 over 101. And D is our answer. And so the GMAT really is a test of pattern recognition, because I think people oftentimes, and maybe you're conditioned this way from the way you learn math in middle school and elementary school, you sort of are committed to doing algebra always, and you're sort of taught that algebra is the right way of doing something. But the GMAT test writers, they're testing something different. They're testing your problem-solving skills, or what they call your executive reasoning skills. So they're for questions like this, I think they're sort of testing, well, how do you solve a problem when you can't do algebra? They're trying to sort of back you up into a corner and see if you can find your own novel approach to doing it. And so when I see a question like this, I don't see the answer appear fully formed in my head or even necessarily all the steps to get there. But what I don't do then is just sort of stare at the page, waiting for the algebraic solution to appear in my head. I say to myself, I'm not sure exactly where this is going, but what can I do? And what I can do is I can generate some examples, and then everything sort of snowballs from there. And so testing, looking for patterns is sort of the equivalent of testing numbers for other types of questions, which again is also something people I think are people are hesitant to do on the GMAT, but oftentimes that's specifically what they're trying to see. They're trying to see if you can come up with a solution other than algebra. That is why both testing numbers and coming up with examples and looking for patterns is a very useful skill on the GMAT, because it really is how problems get solved in the real world. How do people discover solutions to problems questions that have never been asked before? If there's no textbook solution that they can look up, you're sort of left with no choice but to sort of perform an experiment, generate some examples, and then look for patterns. Let's do some consecutive set questions in the next few videos.